I'm going to ask for grace today for what I'm about to do to you. Whether I have to ask for forgiveness, we'll have to wait and see till when I'm done. So we read the text of 1 Samuel chapter 15. When you're reading literature that is over 3,000 years old, written in a different language from the other side of the world, in a culture that looks like nothing you've ever seen, including anything that's actually on the planet today, except in the most obscure corners of the world, you can imagine that there were sometimes some tricks, some difficulties in making a good translation or in trying to understand exactly what's happening in the text. Here today we've read this text with King Saul. There's a number of emotional reactions we could have to this. He makes one little mistake and his whole kingdom is thrown aside. This is just awful. Or what's with Samuel? First he says he's not going to do a thing, and then because Paul begs him, please, he changes his mind and goes along with him. This is a very bizarre text. People who read about the slaughter of the Amalekites and think, that's not very nice. And so what I found is that ancient text can be like anybody ever had one of these tools? I'm sorry, I actually have a real one of these, but it's way too heavy to carry. Where you can't open the drawers until you pop the locks. And when you pop the locks and open the mechanisms, suddenly the drawers open. We have some pretty fancy toys in our toy box in the nursery here. An ancient text can be the same way. There can be ideas that are happening in the text, in the world of the text that you don't know. There can be things happening in the language that you don't know, grammatical points that you don't know, the meanings of words that you don't know. All kinds of things can be happening in a text that's that old, concealed through translation, concealed from being a really odd culture to us. And you need keys. You need to know what this idea is. You need to know what this word is. And when you get all the keys, you pop open the text and boom, all the great treasures of God come flowing out of the passages of Scripture. This is one of those passages that has a lot of stuff going on. It seems very simple on the surface, but it is not. Not simple at all. So we want to try and unpack here because there's some powerful words here. There are certain passages in this Scripture that are famous. If you're a Christian and you have not heard to obey is better than sacrifice, then you probably aren't really paying attention for very long. To obey is better than sacrifice is one of the most quoted scriptures in all of Christendom. So let's talk a little bit of what's happening here. What are we to do with what's happening to Saul here? Because he is a negative lesson for us. Matter of fact, he's almost always a negative lesson. How would you like to do that? Your purpose in life is to be a negative example for everyone else. I have saved millions by being a fool in front of them and being destroyed by my folly. You're welcome. So in 1923, Martin Buber, I know I've talked about this book before, but Martin Buber, a Jewish philosopher and scholar, he had been wrestling for many years with this basic heart question, this thing that was just tearing his soul apart as a believer in Yahweh. Yahweh, does everybody know Yahweh, when you say Yahweh, when you say it that way, it means the creator. That's what the word means. He who causes to be. That's what it means. The one who causes all things to be. So when I say Yahweh, I mean the creator. So here, a believer in the creator, he's trying to get his head around as a philosopher. He's studied the Greek philosophers. He's studied the ancient Eastern philosophers. And he's trying to understand what is the nature of true religion. Because there's a lot of religion in the world. A lot of religion in the world. And it doesn't all come out the same. It doesn't all look the same. But there are some things that look really close. But how do you differentiate what's true, what's not true? Here's Jesus, Jewish rabbi, standing beside other Jewish rabbis. And somehow his religion is real and true and something's wrong with theirs. Well, what is it? This is where Martin Buber is wrestling. What is the heart of true religion? And so he has what he believes is a moment of clarity. He's had moments of clarity before, and he didn't have a tape recorder to get it down. And so he rushes to his desk with his paper, and while he has this moment of insight into what is the heart and soul of true religion, he types out the book, I and Thou. It is not an easy book to read. I've recommended it before. Some people have asked me about it. If you've tried to read it, you'll figure out it's not the easiest book to read. But he basically lays out that there's two realities for us in this world. And he calls the one I, it, me, engaging a world of things. That means people as things, institutions, goals, purposes. I've got all kinds of stuff in the world that I need to accomplish, right? Do not have things, like even Jesus said, and the Lord knows that you have need of them. You worry about many things. What shall we eat? With what shall we clothe ourselves? How shall we house ourselves? And the Lord knows that you have need of them. We do need them. We need jobs, and we have to use money. So we have to deal with banks and loans and grocery stores and farmers, and we've got this whole world of stuff that we have to engage. Then he has this other world, the I, thou. And that is the human encounter when the individual recognizes that he is a creature, a created thing, standing before his Creator, to whom he owes everything. And that everything that's in the world, the stuff that when he was living in I, it, that stuff that was an it, that stuff that was used for his own purposes to accomplish his own goals, those things, those people, those animals, those trees, those are also his creatures. And that he, as the worshiper, he as the one standing before the Holy Creator, owes the Creator everything and owes his fellow creatures everything. Now, how do you put the two together? So you're a general and you've got a task to accomplish. There's evil to be overthrown. You have a mission to accomplish, and you have soldiers that have to accomplish it. In the world of I, it, they are nothing but pawns to win a battle. They're things to be used, not people to be loved. In the world of I, thou, every soldier that you send on a mission, possibly to his death, is a fellow creature, loved by his Creator like you are loved by your Creator. And how do you put the two together? That's what his book's about. Hard to read. If you ever choose to read it, go on my blog, read my 6 articles on the book, then read the book. It'll help you. Believe me, I spent a long time going, what? Trying to unpack the book. So we're going to have this tension that something that Saul never figured out, that David did figure out. When God says of David, he is a man after my own heart, he is saying something that's not true about Saul. Saul does not understand the I, thou encounter. He does not know what it is to be a creature standing before his holy Creator. To Saul, everything is an it. Everyone is an it. He has his purposes, his intentions, his desires, his ambitions, his ego, and everything around him, including his own children, are things to be used in the accomplishment of his purposes. He is not a sad sack victim of accidentally forgetting to dot an I, who then gets ultimate punishment for some slight and insignificant thing. He is a man who has never understood what it means to be a worshiper of the Creator. And as such, he is an offense. He is an abomination. In this passage, we want to look at the seriousness of Saul's sin. Everybody ready? Go. You're going to need it. The seriousness of Saul's sin, the sense of snatching Samuel's skirt, the significance of the central saying, and the sanctimonious serenades of Saul. Yeah, that took me some time. Fortunately, I am a walking thesaurus. I did not actually have to. All right. So let's talk about the seriousness of Saul's sin. So let's read a little bit of what Samuel told Saul to do, and then to understand the significance of what it is, because that's one of those keys. That is understanding what was Saul's mission. What were the rules of that mission, and how were those rules important? Then Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint you as king over Israel. Now therefore listen to the words of the Lord." Every time he says Lord, he's saying Yahweh. Listen to the words of the Creator. "Thus says the Creator of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he set himself against him on the way while he was coming up from Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek and utterly destroy. This word, utterly destroy, important. The word is harem. Harem. Yes, it's a little like harem. H-A-R-E-M. It's a little like that, but it's H-E-R-E-M. They're connected, but they don't mean exactly the same thing. He wants Saul to conduct a harem. This is big deal. This is really big deal stuff. This word is like a magic. You got to work ahead of you. And there's a lot behind this word because God does not declare harem against anybody. It's not just anybody that gets this. This utterly destroy is reserved for people who have become so odious in their presence in the earth that creation itself cannot reach its fullness with them still in it. People that are so vile, whose behavior is so vile, whose life is so vile, whose practices are so vile. Like when we read about Elijah on the Mount of Baal, and then he kills the 400 priests of Baal, and we're like, wow. We're sitting in church, we're singing about the reckless love of God, and then we're reading a text about murdering 400 priests. Think of these men as serial killers, because that's what they are. They murder children for the worship of pagan gods. We're talking about people who, when they build a new house, take one of their children, snap its neck, stick it in a jar, and bury it under the corner post of their house so that their pagan deity will bless them. Sickness, a disease of the soul so rank that as long as it exists in this world, creation itself screams and groans under the weight of their wickedness. Don't feel bad for those 400 priests of Baal. They deserved everything that they got. All right, so the seriousness is all sin. We're starting to build here toward this. Harem. Harem is connected to the holy site. When you declare a harem, you take these people that we've just described, and God says, I want them wiped out. Now, in typical warfare of the ancient world, the soldier's pay was, he goes in, he fights a war, he kills their enemies, they strip them of gold and silver and whatever they have. They take their armor, they take their swords, they take their stuff. This is plunder. There's no plunder in harem. Unless God specifically says, this time I'll let you have some stuff. Everything in a harem, a people so vile, so filthy, that everything that they have even touched is defiled. Everything is to be burned with fire. Everyone is to be burned with fire. If it has breath, if it can be destroyed by fire, it is purged, turned to ash. If it cannot be destroyed by fire, it is smelted and given to the temple of the Lord. So whenever you touch something that involves the holy site, whenever you talk about things that involve the holy, it's always serious business. So he's declared a harem against these people who are wicked beyond reason. They are vile people. They're like the people in the inner cities who hide behind garbage cans, waiting for little old ladies to come down the street and then stab them, stab them, stab them, stab them, stab them, so that they can steal $5 out of their purse. That's who these people are. And they rage through the world, murdering and raping and pillaging, and God has said, I've had enough of them. I've given them centuries, and they have not changed their ways. I want them gone. I want them out of the earth. Now go and strike Amalek and utterly destroy all that he has. Do not spare him, but put to death both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. Then Saul summoned the people and numbered them in Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers, 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to the city of Amalek. We recognize that sometimes the numbers in the Bible, they mean things differently than we do. Like the word 1,000 can mean 1,000, but it can also mean a troop of men. A troop was called by the same word, so a troop of men is an aleph. And the word aleph means 1,000, but the word aleph also means a troop of men. So it could be 200 troops of men. And that troop averaged 25 to 50 people. So you always got to recognize there's some wiggle room in the possibilities of these numbers. So 200,000 foot soldiers, 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to the city of Amalek and set ambush in the valley. And Saul said to the Kenites, I'll skip through that part. He allows some people to go free because they're not part of the Amalekites. So Saul defeated the Amalekites from HAGALAH as you go to Shur, which is east of Egypt, and he captured Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and were not willing to destroy them utterly, but everything despised and worthlessly utterly destroyed. You see the distance between what was told to be done and what was done. This is serious business. You're talking about a holy right. You're talking about a sacred duty. And you decide that even though the Creator has given you very specific instructions on what you're supposed to do, you decide, well, I don't think I really need to do that. I know that God said, but, the times, they are changing. I think there's a little wiggle room here. And then you begin the self-talk, because we're going to see self-talk. I am sure that God would understand if only I'm sure he understands my need too. I'm sure he recognizes that I'm a king and I got certain responsibilities. I'm a guy and I'm a woman and I got certain feelings, and I'm sure God would understand. And so they break harem. Now here's one of the rules of harem. If you take harem, you become harem. This is laid out in the book of Deuteronomy. If you take it, you become it. That means that if that thing that God has said, I want that thing, it is so vile, those people are so vile, I want them out of the world. And if you go and you bring that into your bosom, you hide it in your tent, you bring it into your house, you become harem. Now we see this happen in the book of Joshua when they go to the city of Jericho. Now there's going to be some wonderful things that happen in this story. You're going to have this little house in Jericho that becomes Israel. Rahab, she welcomes the spies. She breaks faith with her own people. She says, I recognize that my people are wicked and vile, and I'm throwing in with you. I want to be a part of you. And so they make a covenant with her. And everybody in her house is walking into Israel. We understand it's like an embassy. So her house becomes an embassy of Israel, and everybody that goes in it, by breaking faith with their people, and they join with faith of Israel, they become Israel. And they are spared. But there's this guy named Achan. And even though everything has been declared harem, everything is to be destroyed, nothing is to be touched, he goes and he says, I'm sure God didn't see that cool thing there. He certainly wouldn't want me to burn that. And so he takes some money, takes some gold bars, some silver bars, he takes some clothes, he takes some stuff, and he stashes it in his tent. And all of a sudden, when Israel goes to go to war, God's like, yeah, I'm not going with you. You've taken harem. You've become harem. Root it out. And so they go to root it out. They're going to lose a battle, but I don't want to get into that. But so they go to root it out, and they're like figuring out who took the harem, and they're casting lots. And all of a sudden, Achan, the guy who took all the stuff, finally, I confess it was me. I don't know what I was thinking. It was terrible. I took it. It's in my tent. Now you have a situation. His tent and everything in it is harem. It has to be destroyed. It has to be annihilated. Now, let me tell you, if his wife, when he had taken the harem and buried it under the tent, if his wife had gone to the leaders of Israel and said, my husband took harem and hid it in the tent, I want nothing part of it, she would have lived. If his children had said, I love my dad, well, what he just did is high evil, and I cannot participate in that, had gone to the leaders of Israel and said, my father, I love him, but I don't want any part of this. I will not be against Yahweh. I'm from the Lord. Let God be true and every man a liar. I'm with God. They would have lived. But they didn't. And so he, his wife, his children, all his animals, everything that belonged to him is destroyed, just like harem, burned. I want you to understand how important what Saul does here is. This is serious business. He is actually treated in his defiance of harem with more mercy than he deserved. And it's not mercy for him. It is mercy for Israel. It is not good for Israel to simply have their king destroyed like this. So he will give it time. He will make a plan, and he will remove him. So the seriousness of Saul's sin, take harem, become harem. He put a lot at risk. And he, unlike Achan does not take any responsibility. When Achan is caught, I confess, I did it. Please, please, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Saul's, hey, it wasn't me, man. It was them. It's those people over there. I didn't do anything wrong. What are you talking about? Oh, okay, well, I guess I did something wrong, but it was because of them. It was their fault. At no point does he take real responsibility for his actions. Never. So he's even worse than Achan. The seriousness of Saul's sin. Now, the sense of snatching Samuel's skirt. Everybody remember a couple weeks ago, I preached on the woman with the issue of blood. Talked about the grabbing of the hem. Now, a lot of people see this, so I love this. He's got this, he's leaving, he's grabbing the hem, he tears in his hands. It's great imagery. But is he just trying to keep him from leaving? This grabbing of the hem is very significant. So for those of you who are not familiar with what I'm talking about, let me go through it again. Now pay attention to the fact that we're going to see two things here in this story. So Saul's going back and forth. He doesn't want to obey. He doesn't want to listen. He goes, well, okay, starts making excuses. Yeah, we kept some of the sheep, but only to sacrifice to the Lord, of course. It's all for the glory of God. Yeah, no. Finally, I've sinned. I've indeed transgressed the command of the Lord and your words because I feared the people. Oh, I feared them. It's not my fault. I'm a weak man, and they're so scary. Now, therefore, please, he's going to ask two things. Therefore, please pardon my sin. And he's going to ask another thing. Return with me. Make a show. The Lord has said that my kingdom is to be taken from me. That for the mercy of Israel of not having their king executed in front of them, which is what he deserved, God will give it time, but his kingdom is done. His dynasty is over. God is going to give everything that is Saul's, everything that Saul did not appreciate. He's going to give it to somebody after the Lord's own heart. And he's like, please forgive it. Undo that. Don't do that. Don't let that happen. And then he asks the second thing. Samuel, come back and honor me before the people. We're having a victory celebration. And the king's like, what are they expecting? The king to come up and going, all right, who's up in the house? King Saul, woo! Look what we did. We got it done. Woo! And he's like, Samuel, stand by my side and go, yay, Saul. Yay, Saul. Samuel's like, you knew. Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king of Israel. And he turns to leave. And as he turns to leave, Saul grabs the hem of his garment. Now, the garment hem, as we said a couple weeks ago, in the entire ancient Near East, among the pagans and even among Israel, is the symbolic mystical extension of the individual in worship before their God. Is that a real fast statement? It means this represents me. It's like a family crest. But it represents me as a man standing before my Creator. And so if you were rich, it might be big. It might be heavily embroidered. It might actually have a crest-like element to it in which it was so distinguished that you could make a contract and take the hem of your garment and press it into the clay tablet. And that was a covenant before your God that you would pay what you owed in that contract. And your hem signed it. Your wife would have a garment and her hem might match yours. And in a divorce, you would rip the hem off her garment. Remember when David's in the cave with Saul? And he sneaks up on him in the dark? And he cuts off his hem. That is to cut him off from the protective bond that he has with God. That's why his conscience smites him so much. He's literally cut off his hem. He's cut off the symbol of his protective relationship with the Lord. Of course, it's just a show at this time because God has abandoned him. Demonic spirits have come to him. David had to be brought in as an exodus to keep Saul from going out of his mind with madness. So this hem is a big deal. Kings would take copies of their hem and send them to temples. And they would do incantation, pagan kings, and do incantations over the hem in order to put a spell of protection on the king. If a person went for deliverance and had demonic spirits, they would do incantations over the hem of the garment. This is serious stuff. If a son was being disinherited, his outer garment with its hem was taken away from him. And if he was re-inherited, he was given the garment back. It was the symbol and the sign of his connection to being under the authority of his father's house, to being part of the family whom this hem represented. Tassels were put on it to represent every Israelite as part of a community of people who were priests of God. So Saul grabs the hem. In pagan worship, they would have an idol, and they would put a clothing on it, and they put makeup on it. You can imagine. Everybody remember that little Barbie head? Where you could do the little curling with the hair and put the little makeup on. My sister had one. She loved it. She practiced doing makeup and hair, and then a couple years later, she didn't want the doll. She did it on her own self. So this is what they would do to their gods. And they would put clothing on them, and they would have a hem, and the hem of the household idol matched the hem of the man, and therefore it symbolized that as the family was under his protection, he was under the God's protection. And they would believe that if you came and you knelt before the god, the idol, and you grabbed the hem of the idols, and you made any request, he had to give it to you. Very powerful, powerful symbol, because it was the symbol of coming under one's authority, of coming under one's protection. And so we have letters from kings that would say, on such and such a day, I will go here and I will do this, assuming that no one grabs my hem and draws me into their business. Because if the king went by you and you got a hold of his hem and you asked of him, if he had the power to give it, he had to give it. Now, it's hard in a non-symbol culture like ours to understand the strength of this, but it was powerful. And so when Samuel goes to leave, Saul is not just trying to keep him from getting out of the room. Saul has got a game plan. Among the pagans, they would grab the hem of the god. He is going to grab the hem of the prophet. Now remember, he's asked two things. Turn back the threat against my kingdom and come and honor me before the people. So he grabs the hem. But Samuel is moving so fast that it actually tears. Samuel stops and looks, and he knows what Saul is about. Now, if you doubt what Saul is about, that he is about to attempt a pagan play, to believe that he can, by grabbing the hem of the prophet, manipulate the God of the prophet. If you have any doubt, all you have to do is to understand who Saul is and who Saul has been. When we meet Saul in chapter 10, the first words spoken about him as Samuel sees him. Now, the translations often get messed up. I'm going to tell you exactly what it says in Hebrew. This is the man who will oppress my people. Because this was the promise that was given to them. When they wanted to go away from the charismatic leaders and they wanted to move to an established kingship, Samuel said, when you get a king, he's going to oppress you. When you get a king, he's going to do this and he's going to do that, and the taxes are going to go up. And he's going to take your sons and daughters to serve in his palace, and he's going to take your sons and daughters and make them work in his armies. And he's going to take a bunch of your crops, and you're going to be his servant, and he's going to oppress you. And so when he first meets the man that God is going to put over them, the words are, this is the man who will oppress my people. He turns around, and when they try to make him king, him believing that the entire force of kingship is on his shoulders, he hides. No, this is not humble. This is not humble. Don't mistake this as humble. Was David a humble man? He was. And when Goliath came forward and challenged Israel, David did not hide in the tent. David said, who does this guy think he is? I have killed the lion and the bear with the help of the Lord, and with the help of the Lord, I'll take care of him. His job as the champion of Israel wasn't dependent fully on him. It was only dependent on his obedience to the Lord. It was only dependent on him having a heart for the Lord, and God would take care of the rest. He understood, David understood what it meant to stand before his holy Creator, owing him everything. Saul did not. To Saul, everything was dependent on him, and he hid. And then he's going to turn around, and he's going to panic when Samuel doesn't show up in time to do a sacrifice for a battle, and he's going to take over the priestly role. And he's going to try and make himself a priest, and Samuel's going to show up and go, not good. Then he's going to turn around, he's going to make some foolish vow, looking like a big man. Oh, look at me, I'm going to make this big vow before the Lord. And his vow ends up seriously diminishing the effectiveness of the battle because he's weakened all the men. His vow was, no men will be allowed to eat until we've had complete victory. You're soldiers. You're swinging axes and swords, and you're running. And you're like that. All of a sudden, 10 hours into the battle, you're like, don't run so fast, because you guys are eating, we ain't. So the men have become weak. And he's scolded publicly. What's the matter with you? Now here, he's won a victory, and he has defied Herod in it. But it gets worse. Do you know who Saul's sons are? Everybody know? How many know any of Saul's sons? So I'm just named 2 sons. Jonathan. Jonathan means gift of Yahweh. Then we have Ishbosheth. Ishbosheth. What does Ishbosheth mean? Anybody know? It means man of shame. His name was not Ishbosheth. The rabbis changed his name to Ishbosheth because his real name was Ishbaal. The rabbis were so humiliated. This is not a secret. This is known commonly. But the handlers of this text were so embarrassed that the first king of Israel had one son named for Yahweh and one son named for Baal. Now, Saul is a pragmatic, self-involved narcissist. I don't believe he had any care for either. Everybody see the mummy? The scene with the mummy where that little weaselly little guide there gets caught and the mummy's coming up on him and he pulls out his necklace and he's got like the Buddha and he starts doing Buddha things and then he pulls out Krishna and he pulls out this and he keeps pulling out. He pulls out a cross and then he pulls out a Star of David and he just keeps switching religious symbols to see which one does the trick with the mummy, which one's going to make the mummy respond. Saul is one of these types of people. He is a narcissist, self-involved. He's interested in his power, his authority, his name, his reputation, his purpose, his mission. And having one son that he dedicates to Baal and one son that he dedicates to Yahweh, that should take care of it. I think we've got our bases covered. Saul never is recorded in all of Scripture worshiping the Lord. Saul never goes after the Ark of the Covenant. What's one of the first things David does? I want the Ark with me. I want the presence of God with me. I want the shrine of ultimate worship, the presence of Yahweh. I want it near me. I want to be in the presence of the Lord. Bring it near. Saul's like, yeah, whatever. He doesn't care about any of that. He builds no shrines, builds no temples. Later, he's going to murder all the priests of God. He's going to do a harem slaughter on the priests of God when he couldn't pull off a harem slaughter against those so vile that God wanted them removed from the earth. But when the priests of God get in his way, them he can harem slaughter. Saul is a bad dude. And so he grabs Samuel's hem. And Samuel knows what he's up to. The old pagan manipulative tricks. Now, there's a lot of idols in the Bible. Remember what I said? The keys. Remember, I told you, you might have to ask me. I might have to ask forgiveness when I'm over. Oh, so many keys. Okay, paganism. What's with the idols? What is paganism? To cut it short, paganism is a belief that everything in the world is connected. And that you can gain manipulative power over the world around you through ritual actions. You can control your destiny. You can turn the power of the gods to fulfill your will if you say the right thing or do the right thing. If you are manipulative, if you have the right ritual, the right words to say. When we were in New York City, a preacher was there, and Melody and I were we dating? We weren't really dating yet. I was the puppy dog following behind, hoping. And she's sitting next to me. I was probably thinking more about her sitting next to me than I was the preacher. But the preacher goes like this. God's a lot like a woman. Give a woman flowers, she'll do anything for you. And Melody leans over. I wonder if God was as offended at that as I was. That's paganism. If you are sycophantic enough, if you offer the right incenses, if you make the right actions, if you fall on your knees before your idol and grab the hem and go, oh my God, I love you so much, that you can turn the power of the God to fulfill your purposes. So when Elijah is on that mountain and he says in the battle with the Baal priests, when he says, if Yahweh is God, serve him. If Baal is God, serve him. This was not just a switching out between Coke and Pepsi. This was two completely radical different ideas about the whole of reality. Paganism is a system of manipulation. It is a system in which the worshiper is out for his own interests And why is he out for his own interests? Because the gods don't care about people in the pagan system. The gods got their thing, and they got what they're doing. The unfortunate thing is that men are caught in the crossfire of the nonsense that goes on in the pagan pantheons. So man's only way to survive in the world is to figure out how to get those powerful beings who don't care about him to do his bidding. Yahweh don't play that. You cannot lie to him, cheat him. You can't woo him. I had a friend who was upset once. He had something he'd been asking God for. I've been asking God. I've been praying to God. And he's not coming through. It just hasn't happened yet. So I'm going to fast for a week, and then he'll have to give it to me. And I'm like, I think you're worshiping the wrong God. You've got your eye on something else. You're thinking wrong. You're thinking about the world like a pagan. You need to stand as a creature before the one holy creator of all and know that you owe him everything. And that it is his purpose that you are to fulfill, his will that you are to enact in this world, not yours. So Samuel, significance of the central saying. Given the meaning of what is about to happen here, given the meaning of grabbing the hem, Samuel, anticipating that this pagan-minded narcissist might even possibly believe that by grabbing the hem of the prophet that he could pull some kind of a shenanigan game with God. Oh, goodness gracious, that ain't happening. So the second the hem is torn, he knows what he's doing. He also knows that he himself, as a man among men, is done for. Saul has enacted a very powerful cultural appeal. Samuel is a man among men, and he will have to bend to the request. But Yahweh doesn't play that. The Creator can't be manipulated. And so he turns on Saul, and he delivers one of the most powerful theological, anti-pagan messages of what it means to be a worshiper of the one true God. As Samuel turned to go, Saul seized the edge of his robe, and it tore. So Samuel said to him, "The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today." Now, he switches his grammar. It's not the Lord will. The Lord has. It is done, man. You grab my hem, it don't matter. God don't care about that. It's done. He has torn the kingdom from you. He has given it away. The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you and has given it to your neighbor who is better than you. And also, the glory of Israel. Now, this word glory, it's the faithful one, the eternal one, the immutable one, the unchangeable one, the unmanipulatable one. The glorious one of Israel will not lie or change his mind. Now, here's a problem. We have this word here. He will not lie or change his mind. There's one word that stands behind this, change his mind, and that is Naham. Now, Naham, God actually does this several times in Scripture. So to say that God, the immutable, unchangeable, unmanipulatable one, will not Naham, when he routinely does in Scripture. Matter of fact, he's done it right in this very passage. When he says, I regret that I have made Saul king. I Naham that I have made Saul king. So you're like, what? So in the very story, so do you think the author of the story was like, I forgot I wrote that in the first verse. No, he didn't forget. There's something going on here. Because when you study the concept of Naham with God, and that is, when does God move? When does God change directions or change plans? He'll say that he is sorry that he made man. He'll say in the golden calf incident, when God rises up to destroy Israel, and Moses stands in the gap, stands before them as an interceder, God will Naham, and he will not destroy them because of the intercession. So you have in the book of Jonah, when he's going to destroy Nineveh, and the people repent, he Nahams. So here's the big thing with this. God looks to the heart. He is not manipulated by your words. You can quote Scripture at him until you're blue in the face. When I was in high school, we had this young girl. She was about 5 feet tall. She I doubt she weighed 100 pounds. She's in the workout room with all the jocks, And this one big dude, he's like 6'4", comes in, and he's like, hey, little lady, something like that. And he's joking with her like, man, you're so little, I could bounce you around like a basketball. And she reaches out, grabs his pinky, and goes, yeah. And this huge bulking guy is on his knees in front of her going, please, let me out, please let me go. I learned a lesson that day. Hold your fingers tight if you're going to threaten somebody. And where was I going with that? There's no time in which you can grab God by the back of the ear. No scripture has got him caught. Woohoo, now he has to give it to you because he said in his word, you're going to be a liar? No. He looks to the heart. And what moves God is when we move in relationship to God. It is when we change that our encounter with him changes. He is immutable. He is perpetual. He is faithful. He is unchanging. He is who he is. And it is only when we change in relationship to him that we get something different from him. Because he is judging sin. And he is offering redemption. And when we move away from our commitment to sin to our commitment to him, we move out of judgment and into redemption. And that is it. It is when we become obedient to him, when we turn away from our own ways and into his ways, that we get something different from him. But as far as the game that Saul is playing, this game will not be played. Yahweh doesn't play this. You cannot grab the hem of a god or an idol. You cannot do a magical incantation. You can't yell a little louder, quote scripture a little more, jump a little higher. God doesn't do anything for you because you offer him some kind of mystical flowers in the form of a worship song. He looks to the heart. He knows who you are. He knows who you are in the very bottom of your soul. He knows more of who you are than you know. One of my great fears in life is that I'm going to stand before him at the end of days thinking that I've done such a great job. And he's going to go, dude, I never knew you. No! Because he knows my heart better than I do. The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you. He has given it to your neighbor who is better than you. Glory, the Holy One, the immutable one, the unchangeable one of Israel will not lie. He will not change his mind. He cannot be manipulated. He is not a man that he should change his mind, but Samuel is. And then he said, now the grammar here is very specific. Saul is abrupt. He is rude. He's basically fine. That's the grammar in the Hebrew. Fine. I've sinned, but honor me now before the people. He asks two things. Forgive it, turn back the judgment, and honor me before the people. Ain't going to happen. He grabs the hem. He says, don't try that with God. Fine. And you come back and you honor me before the people. And he does. Because he must. And the next thing he does is he slaughters what Saul should have slaughtered. And he goes and anoints David to be the next king of Israel. If you like what you're hearing today, please subscribe below. And don't forget to share it on as many platforms as you can. And tell your friends to watch. Thank you.